Syracuse loses at SMU 31-18, and I think it's pretty clear now the Orange have a problem at quarterback.
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone. Jackson Holzer, Locked On Syracuse. Thank you for making us your first listen of every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're always free and available wherever you get your podcasts, and we're always going to give you a post-game show here on Locked On Syracuse for every football game, whether they win, whether they lose, whether the game is exciting, whether it's downright depressing. That's right. You're always going to get a Locked On Syracuse post-game podcast. And on today's show, we'll go over Syracuse football going on the road and losing at SMU 31-18. Of course, we're going to have plenty of conversations, whether it's right now on this podcast or in future podcasts, about what Syracuse should do at the quarterback position moving forward, because it's pretty clear Rickie Collins is not the answer for Syracuse moving forward. Okay? He's not the guy. He ain't good enough. We're going to start the conversation, though, talking about the first half of this game and just the amount of missed opportunities that Syracuse had. All that and more coming up here on this post-game reaction podcast. And before we get to it, this episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. If you've been following along Locked On Syracuse for a while, if you've been following along myself for a while, you would probably expect, and I understand if you expect this, for me to come on here and to just completely rip Syracuse football apart. I get it. And maybe that's what you want. Maybe you want me to come on here and just completely bash the team. I understand it. That's usually my personality, honestly, when any of my teams lose a game. I just don't like losing. I really do. But I'm a little bit more level-headed, if you couldn't tell by now. And I think it's because I've kind of come to the acceptance of what this team is this season. All right. Now, Syracuse could have made this a game. In fact, they didn't quit. They didn't give up, and they nearly sort of pulled off a comeback. You know, they were trailing 31-18 after a really bad first half where they trailed 24-3. And with 5 minutes left, they nearly recovered an onside kick. It was a very well-executed onside kick by Syracuse. Again, shout out Ricky Brumfield for the special teams this season because they are so much better than they were a year ago. But it was just too little too late for Syracuse in this one. And I think Syracuse lost this game with their first 5 offensive drives. I mean, the first one was just an absolute killer where you have a turnover on downs at the SMU 1-yard line. So first off, the defense comes out, they force a 3-and-out, and then the SMU punter just completely shanks a punt. So Syracuse gets it around the SMU 40-yard line, and to their credit, they get all the way down to the 1. And they face a 3rd and goal, and they call I formation. Yassine Willis, he gets the ball, and he tries to leap over the lineman, but he's stuffed. He doesn't go anywhere. So now it's 4th and goal from the 1, and I support going for it 4th and goal from the 1-yard line. In fact, I pretty much always do, unless it's a scenario where you absolutely need the field goal. So I understand going for it on 4th and 1. And Rickie Collins can't get the first down on a quarterback sneak. So he's stuffed, and so Syracuse turns it over on downs after the defense gets off the field right away. Missed opportunity. Syracuse could have started this game up 7-0. Instead, it is 0-0. And you could say that, hey, Jackson, Don't you think they needed better play calling there? They could have been maybe more creative at the 1-yard line instead of getting stuffed on 2 run plays. I hear you. I understand that. Maybe they could have been more creative with Jeff Nixon obviously calling plays as the offensive coordinator. The other way to look at it is they had 2 run plays from the 1-yard line. You got to score a touchdown there. 2 run plays to get 1 yard. 1 yard's not a lot. I don't care if the other team knows that a run play is coming. You have to execute better. So you could argue it's on the play calling, but I'm also going to argue that it's on the players for simply not executing. The second drive of this game set the tone for really just how poor of a quarterback Rickie Collins really is. First play after the Syracuse defense gets another stop. They let up a first down on a big play, but then they get off the field. Syracuse is at their own 10-yard line. Rickie Collins in the shotgun gets the snap, and he stares down Dan Villari. He throws it in triple coverage, and it's an easy interception for SMU. So that's your second drive, 1 play, and it's an INT. One that was entirely preventable as well. That was a poor decision by Rickie Collins to throw it in triple coverage. But Syracuse's defense, to their credit, they get a little bit of a break on 3rd down with a drop pass in the end zone. But you know what? You'll take the break because at the end of the day, they made a couple of nice plays beforehand to put them in position where they can get a nice break on 3rd down, and they force SMU into a field goal. And that felt like an early win for Syracuse. You just had an interception at the 10-yard line, and you held them down to just 3 points. So you're only down 3-0. On the 3rd drive of the game for Syracuse on offense, it was a 2nd down play, and Rickie Collins has a wide open Jonte Cook on a post route. It would have been about a 70-yard touchdown had they made the connection. But Rickie Collins can't lob it over the linebacker, and so it becomes 3rd down, and they do convert the 3rd down. Darrell Gill makes a nice catch along the right sideline to get it. But the drive fails after that. They stall out, and they end up punting the football. So your first 3 drives are a turnover on downs, an interception, and a punt where it really should have been a touchdown if Rickie Collins can make an accurate throw to Jonte Cook on a post. The 4th drive, another turnover on downs. When it was a situation where Syracuse I think it was in SMU territory. If not, then it was at their own 40. But regardless, Syracuse faces a 3rd and 1. They get stuffed on a run, and a 4th and 1. They get stuffed on another run. Goes back to what I said at the top, where you can argue they should have had better play calling. You could have been more creative, but it's 2 run plays to pick up 1 yard. You have to just execute better. You're not good enough. That's the way I see it. You shouldn't need creativity to pick up 1 yard. They had 4 tries in the first half to pick up a yard, and they didn't get it. And then the 5th drive, they're in the red zone after Rickie Collins, I think, makes the best throw he made all day to Justice Ross Simmons. More on him in the next segment. They're in the red zone. They're facing a 4th and 2. Rickie Collins, he's got Yassine Willis open in the left flat. It could have been a touchdown had he made the connection, but at minimum, it would have been a 1st down. And he just overthrows him. So another turnover on downs. The first 5 drives of the game, turnover on downs, interception, turnover on downs, interception, punt, turnover on downs, turnover on downs. Too many mistakes, too many missed opportunities right there. That's how they lost. That's how Syracuse football lost at SMU. And as far as the defense is concerned, they got off to a nice start, and they certainly performed better than last week against Duke. And they even did a nice job against the run in this game. SMU Let me pull it up right here. I'm just following along on my computer right now. SMU had, what was it, 76 net rushing yards in this one? Is that correct? 76 net rushing yards? That's awesome by this Syracuse defense. Pleasantly surprised. I mean, they forced a 3-and-out on the first series. They forced a punt on the next series. They force a field goal when they start deep in their own territory. But then the next 3 drives after that were touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. And the defense, quite frankly, as they perform better, but this is not a good enough defense to where they can really hold Syracuse in games when the offense is just going to be flat and make too many mistakes. This is a team that really relies on its offense to score a lot of points. And the fact that some of us may be saying, hey, the defense was better, they allowed 31 points and nearly 400 total yards. That's a good performance by the Syracuse defense. I mean, it might have been the best one they had really all season, but it's still not very good. It was just better than it was last week, I guess. So give them credit for that. Overall, it was just a ho-hum game after that. They trailed. They tried to make a rally, but they really weren't good enough. And it's pretty clear that I already kind of mentioned it earlier that Rickie Collins he's just not it. And we'll talk more about Rickie Collins next on Locked On Syracuse. This episode is brought to you by Mazda's Moving the Game Forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward, how about the defense? I mean, in the fourth quarter, a nice safety. That was a big play for Syracuse. Got the offense the ball back after Rickie Collins had his second interception of the afternoon. That was a nice play by the defense. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. It's the weekend, time to crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. I guess we can try to give it to a Syracuse player. How about Jonte Cook, who had 7 catches for 82 yards and a touchdown? Sure, let's just give it to him. And just like Jonte Cook delivered for Syracuse, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday you order, stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer. Once again, Syracuse football loses at SMU 31-18, and we're breaking it all down here on Locked On Syracuse, and we're about to have a conversation about Rickie Collins. In fact, that's going to be pretty much the entire conversation from here on out here on Locked On Syracuse on this post-game reaction podcast. But before we do so, if you can just do me a quick favor, since you're already here on the podcast, if you're new to the podcast, I hope you like it. Please feel free, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. It helps Locked On Syracuse grow to reach all Syracuse Orange fans. Now, SMU came into this game as by far and away the worst pass defense in the ACC. By far. We went over it on Locked On Syracuse, how SMU, I think up until this point, was allowing over 430 passing yards a game. That's a lot of passing yards to give up per game. And Rickie Collins, here are the numbers. 22 of 45, so that is less than a 50% completion percentage. 279 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. He also had nearly 60 rushing yards and a touchdown. So if you play college fantasy football, he probably actually gave you a decent fantasy performance. But 2 things are abundantly clear to me. And I understand it's only been 2 games of the Rickie Collins era, But two things are pretty clear after these two games. Number one, Rickie Collins stinks. Am I wrong? I hope to be wrong. I hope he proves me wrong over the rest of the season, but I'm not liking what I'm seeing. And I'm sure many of you don't like it as well. Comment your thoughts in the comments section below. So Rickie Collins stinks. We'll get to it in just a moment. Number two, Fran Brown. And I want to preface this, okay? I'm going to preface this by saying I don't mind that he did this. Okay, I really don't. I 100% get it. I actually support him doing it. But I just want to point out that Fran Brown saying that this quarterback competition was close between Steve Angeli and Rickie Collins, that is simply not true. And if it is true, then the coaches were way overestimating what they had in Rickie Collins, or just way underestimating what they had in Steve Angeli, because these two quarterbacks are not in the same planet. One is a legitimate power conference starter who could have been all conference this year had he not torn his Achilles. The other is not close to being a starter at a power conference level. Not close. He is only in there right now because the starter is out for the rest of the season. So Fran Brown was not telling the truth about that. And why I support it, there's a few reasons why I support Fran Brown doing this. He didn't want to guarantee Steve Angeli the job just because he was a spring transfer portal addition from Notre Dame. He didn't want to guarantee him the job. He wanted to make him earn it in a quarterback competition. I respect it. I get it. The other is you want to show publicly that you have confidence in Rickie Collins, because you never know, as we are learning right now, if you're going to need him at some point in the season. And number three, they were gearing up to play Tennessee in week one. They were a massive underdog heading into that game. Maybe there was a little bit of gamesmanship. You want to throw Tennessee off a little bit and try to lessen their preparation on whoever Syracuse's starting quarterback is going to be. Make them prep a lot for Rickie Collins, which is pretty much what they did. They waited a long time before officially naming Steve Angeli the starter. So I understand why Fran Brown wasn't necessarily telling the truth. I get it. I support it. This does not mean that Fran Brown is not a good coach for this program, that Fran Brown doesn't have the program in the right direction, but you can't tell me he was telling the truth when he was saying that these two guys are close. We went over it last week in a fan reaction podcast. I wanted to give Rickie Collins the benefit of the doubt that it was only one start. This is his second start. It wasn't pretty at all. And I have a hard time believing that Pro Football Focus is going to bail him out by saying he had a good day, because he did not have a good day. So we can get to Rickie Collins. It's not personal. He's just not good enough as a power conference starter. He is in year 3 of collegiate football. He had 2 years to develop at LSU, where he hardly saw the field at all. He comes over to Syracuse, initially won the starting job, which, I mean, he beat out Michael Johnson Jr. and true freshmen who were just getting their feet wet in college football, and also Jakari Williams. He's got a good support system at Syracuse. I don't think the offensive line is terrible. I don't think they had a bad performance against SMU by any stretch of the imagination. I thought the line was fine. They gave him time to throw the football. We know that Syracuse has really good receivers, and we have seen multiple quarterbacks in the Jeff Nixon system thrive, play their absolute best football of their careers. No doubt Kyle McCord played his absolute best with Jeff Nixon last year. And no doubt Steve Angeli was playing at his absolute best. And they're doing it by completely changing the offensive personnel year over year. But Rickie Collins just simply does not have it. For every 50-yard throw, which was to Justice Ross Simmons, which was a beautiful throw he made in the second quarter, best throw he made all day. And by the way, Justice Ross Simmons, he left the game with a leg injury, was seen in a boot with crutches on the sideline. I don't think it's looking good for him moving forward with Justice Ross Simmons. I'm recording this before hearing the post-game press conference from Fran Brown. Doesn't look good with Justice Ross Simmons, at least for the short term. I don't know about long term. But forever amazing throw that Rickie Collins has, there's 5 more throws that he makes, which are inaccurate, poor decisions, maybe just a little bit of both, if we're being honest. Collins can't complete a basic pass in the left flat to Yassine Willis on a 4th down in the second quarter. That was a big play in this game that he could not convert. He was consistently staring down his receivers. Rickie Collins had 3 interceptions in this game. He could have had 6 to 7 interceptions. It was that bad of a game for Rickie Collins. He's not accurate. He had Jonte Cook in the first quarter on a post, which we talked about in the last segment. It would have gone for 6, but he can't lie over the linebacker. It just wasn't an accurate ball. And also, I mean, this was the most egregious throw he made all day. He has Darrell Gill streaking down the middle of the field wide open in the third quarter. It would have made it 24-10 at that point. It would have kind of gotten Syracuse back in the game. And he overshoots him by 5-10 yards. How much more open do you want your receiver to get? You have to be able to make that throw. And for those that watch the game, you know exactly what I'm referring to. For those that may not have watched the game, it was in the third quarter. I don't remember the exact time of it, but it was in the third quarter. He had Darrell Gill wide open in the middle of the field for a touchdown, and he overthrew him. He also threw a pick to Marcellus Barnes. That was his second interception of the game. Maybe Rickie Collins thought that Marcellus Barnes was still a member of Syracuse, because for those that don't know, or for those that may have forgotten, Marcellus Barnes now plays for SMU. He's a defensive back, and he was with Syracuse as a true freshman a year ago. He left in the transfer portal this offseason. Yay. So in summary, Rickie Collins on almost every single play struggles with his decision-making and or his accuracy. And I just pointed out a ton of examples, and there are plenty of more examples we could have gone over here, but we don't have all day here on Locked On Syracuse. And I think the coaching staff knows it. Regardless of what they may say publicly, I think they know that Rickie Collins really isn't the guy. They know it. I mean, if you were watching this game and maybe you just honestly caught it on social media, Josh Gaddis was ripping Rickie Collins at the end of the first half, just completely ripping him. Almost to the point where you're saying, I mean, you're showing your quarterback up on national television. That's how bad it was. But the message, I think, is pretty clear that we know it as fans. I don't know whatever the players think, but we know it as fans, and I think the coaches know it as well, that Rickie Collins is really only the starting quarterback right now because Steve Angeli tore his Achilles. There's no way he was close to Steve Angeli. There was a reason why in fall camp the players were gravitating more towards Steve Angeli, because he's just simply much, much better. And Rickie Collins is not good enough to be a power conference starter at this point. Hope to be wrong, but that's just how I see it right now. Comment your thoughts in the comments section below. So what now for Syracuse football? I guess we'll talk about that next on Locked On Syracuse. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors. This is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performance. And the personalized class recommendations keep you engaged. You get workouts tailored to your vibe and energy level each week. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. What now for Syracuse football? They're heading into the bye week, their first one of the season, and their record, I think we kind of expected, just in a different fashion, but we kind of expected that they would be 3-3 heading into their bye week, which on the surface is not necessarily bad. It just means that they would have to go 3-3 in the second half to make a bowl. Honestly, though, and I would love for people to start disagreeing with me in the comments section below, because I would love to be called pessimistic for what I'm about to say. I don't see how this team makes a bowl. I really don't, especially with what is going on at the quarterback position. And I think that is really the discussion moving forward. What Syracuse football should do at quarterback. Because I don't care what any Syracuse player or what any Syracuse coach has to say about Rickie Collins. He's not good enough. He has played in college now for 3 years. I understand that this was technically only his second career start, but I don't know how many more reps he needs to be to all of a sudden just figure it out. At some point, you are who you are. And football is not one of those professions where you can keep playing until, you're 65 and you can consistently try to get better over time. You got to be ready fast. You got to be good enough fast to survive in pro sports, in college sports, in football especially, right? He's not the guy. I want to preface this conversation by saying I am open to many different opinions. Like I really am. I'm open to suggestions as to what you think Syracuse should do at quarterback moving forward. The problem right now is two-pronged. You know that Rickie Collins is not good enough. You know that if Rickie Collins starts for the rest of the season, it is very unlikely that Syracuse is going to go 3-3 to qualify for a bowl in 2025. That's problem number one. But problem number two is really a question. What's the alternative to Rickie Collins? I mean, can Steve Angeli perhaps play on a torn Achilles? No, he cannot play on a torn Achilles, although I wish he could. The backup is Luke Carney, who is a true freshman. And Luke Carney could be the future of Syracuse football. He really could. In fact, he might be the immediate future of Syracuse football. I would not be surprised if this coaching staff took their time during the bye week to reevaluate the quarterback position and Luke Carney is starting against Pitt. And I imagine that many of you are probably saying, you know what? We know Rickie Collins isn't the guy, Jackson. Let's trot out Luke Carney and let's see what he's got. Let's find out what happens. Totally understand it. But here's where I'm at. I really don't want to rush the kid. I really don't. He is a true freshman playing against the Pitt Panthers. That's an ACC football team. It's not a soft landing. Pitt is a pretty good team. That's not an easy game for even some of the best quarterbacks in the nation. They may struggle against the Pitt Panthers. If Luke Carney is to start the next game, I would hope it's because the coaching staff believes he is legitimately ready to play. And if he is legitimately ready to play, I fully support starting Luke Carney against Pitt after the bye. I fully support it. If they think he's ready, you got nothing to lose. Just play him because you think he's ready. But I do not want to trot him out there just because Rickie Collins isn't good. I don't see the point in rushing the guy. I really don't want to rush him if he's not ready. That's where I'm at right now with it. So if he's ready, play him. If not, you might have to stick it out with Rickie Collins, at least for the next game against Pitt. Maybe you have a short leash on him in that one. Who knows? If you don't want to play Luke Carney and you don't want to play another true freshman in Rich Bellin that they have, you could say, hey, Jackson, maybe they should give redshirt freshman Jakari Williams a shot. The problem with Jakari Williams is he's the fourth string quarterback. You think he's going to be good? Probably not. He might be worse than Rickie Collins. In fact, he probably is worse than him because Rickie Collins beat him out for the starting job. Has he progressed to the point where he is now better than Rickie? Maybe. You could argue that to me. That's why I am open to so many different ideas with the quarterback position right now. So you could, I guess, go with Jakari Williams. Another option is you could do what they essentially did in 2023, which is go a full Wildcat offense with Dan Villari as the quarterback. The issue with that is then you really don't have a passing game. I understand that Dan Villari is sort of a threat to throw the football because he did come into college at Michigan as a quarterback, so he can throw it a little. But there's a reason why he's now a tight end. You can't, if you go full Wildcat here, you're not going to have a passing game for the rest of the season. Is that what you want to do? What happens to Jonte Cook? Is he just a glorified decoy out there for the rest of the year? He might be your best offensive player. Yeah, honestly, it kind of feels like they're sort of screwed at quarterback. And that kind of means they're screwed for the year. I'm sorry, that's just how I feel. I would love to be wrong. Comment your thoughts in the comment section below. I root for Syracuse every game. Syracuse is where I went to school. I literally graduated from there in May of 2024. That's right. I'm pretty young, as you may tell here, as you can probably tell here on Locked On Syracuse. But I don't know what the right answer is at quarterback. I hope the coaching staff knows a lot better than I do. That's for sure. But comment your thoughts in the comment section below. What would you do at quarterback for Syracuse moving forward? Now, as far as what's coming up on this podcast here in the near future, tomorrow, I'd imagine we're going to continue to have the conversation about the quarterback play in our fan takes podcast, our fan reaction podcast. So that's coming up tomorrow here on Locked On Syracuse. And then on Monday, we'll go over some of the big picture takeaways as Syracuse enters the bye week at 3-3. And also next week, we will have a conversation about or try to project the long-term outlook for Syracuse at the quarterback position. Steve Angeli coming off a torn Achilles, what they should do in the short term, what they should maybe do in the long term. Is it going to be Steve's team for 2 more years after this? Maybe. We'll have that conversation later on next week. All that and more coming up on Locked On Syracuse in the near future. And folks, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. If you like this podcast, be sure to hit that like button. If you really enjoy the podcast, be sure to hit subscribe. And yes, I know that Syracuse is 3-3, and right now they don't look very good, but we're still going to give you a post-game show after every single Syracuse football game. And I really love and appreciate all the support here on Locked On Syracuse. So folks, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening, and I will see you all again soon.